further, I invite Mr. Pugazhenthy, Executive Director, ILZUDA, and past President IIM, to share his expert view on Expo 225 scenario in the metal sector. Mr. Pugazhenthy, may we have you please, your expert comments?
So delighted to hear the remarks made by Chandru. He really covered a vast ground, non-ferrous metals, gold, silver, and the potential impact, etc. It was very interesting, I must say, and I wish more and more producers, users, traders, they all have joined and benefited from his lecture. I'm not surprised at the vast amount of knowledge you want to share with all of us today. Also, I'm very pleased to see my good old friend Dr. Feroz joining today to talk about steel. He's a veteran in the industry. I heard him many times. Heard him many times in our own conference seminars, etc. And Jnana Sekaran and Atul Goyal, they are all here. And you're giving me a brief slot, I think, Pinaji, thank you very much. Now, before I talk about this metals outlook, for a little while, I want to take all of you down the memory lane. If you all remember, 4 years back when Trump lost the election, his men went plundering the Senate, Congress, and public property. I was really ashamed. In India, elections take place in municipal corporations, panchayats, state governments, assembly elections, parliament elections. Have you ever seen violence in our country? I think there's some disturbance. You have to mute everybody else, Binaji. Yeah. So in our country for the last 75 years, we have been having so many elections. But we never had any violence. So that kind of a violence happening in US because one person who was in White House for 5 years, he could not digest the defeat. Binaji, you have to do something there to fine tune our meeting and see that our people are all not making cross connections, etc. So that kind of scenario in US shows the political leadership vacuum in US. And unfortunately, someone who was charge sheeted, whose cases were pending in the US courts, etc., and he was elected. And the day he was elected, he called Canada the 51st state of the US. Can you believe that? And he said, Greenland, I'll take over. And Denmark said, Greenland is not on sale. Then he was talking about Panama Islands, Mexico, Canada, and then finally European Union. He is really burning his house. He's burnt his house from day one, I would say. All of them are against now. Canada, European Union, Mexico, China. I said, we are not going to come to the negotiation table. And they also told many other countries, please don't waste your time negotiating with the US. That is China's way of looking at it. But Indian government last 1 month, Piyush Goyal and his team, Commerce Minister, even twice, and his team have been going there. They want to do behind the scene discussions and see that there is no major impact, there is no major tariff war between India and the US. Also, I would like you all to remember, China cares very little about this 145% duty imposed on them. They said, we don't want to waste time sitting with you and discussing. And last 1 week, the Chinese president went to Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand. He wants to build bridges with neighboring countries to develop his markets for all his products and commodities in the coming years, coming months. He has also told India, let us sit across. That's a major change in foreign policy coming from number one in China to India. All along, they were having a different view with India, trying to create problems, etc. But now he says, let's sit and discuss. So this kind of a scenario I'm seeing. Unfortunately, when you become a president of the largest democracy in the world, one has to show a lot of maturity. We have been talking about protectionism for the last, what, 30 years, 25 years? Protectionism. We are talking against protectionism, sorry, against protectionism. And we have been talking about free trade in WTO negotiations and all that. Low tariffs, very, very low tariffs we are talking about, not 145%. So literally, Trump has taken the world at least 50, 60 years back trade as far as trade is concerned. Now, as far as India is concerned, I have been very closely seeing, you're all seeing, 2008, when there was a global meltdown, the big hue and cry, what will happen to the world, what will happen to India? Nothing happened in 2008. We sailed the boat smoothly without any major impact. Even this time also, what is the beauty about India? You talk about steel, you talk about non-ferrous metals, any one of them. India thrives on domestic consumption. The demand is so high here. We are not export dependent for many of our metals or alloys or components. We may be exporting as a strategy to have a market share, etc., in different countries. But largely, India thrives only on domestic consumption. Take any metal, for instance. Why is that? That's because this consistent GDP growth, 6% and above now. And last few months, last few days, I'm seeing the projection by ADB, IMF, World Bank, etc. They're reducing the GDP projection of India by 1%, half a percent. But even then, they're talking about 6.3, 6.2% growth, etc. That has been there. GDP growth is consistently going up, or we are able to have a wonderful GDP growth, one of the fastest growing economy, political stability. The citizens here, they are looking for higher standards of living, cars, or scooters, or appliances, whatever. We are buying everything. Earlier, we were all not spending so much on this kind of product. So much of buying power. The youngsters, the young population, demographic dividend that we have in this country, and they are all well paid. And the guy who joins an IT company, in 2 years he buys a mid-sized car, not a motorcycle, not a scooter. So things are changing in this country. I was actually looking at the exports to US. From India, I find the largest exports is from electrical and electronic sector, 15 billion US dollars. The next one is pharma products, $13 billion. Then gems and jewelry is $12 billion. 15, 13, 12 billion. Where does steel stand? Steel exports is less than 3.5 billion, 3.5 billion. I understand this is less than 1%. China's exports to US steel item wise is 1.5, India is 1%. I also was surprised to see US imports, steel imports, amounted to about $34 billion dollars in 2024, 34 billion US dollars. Canada was 23%, that's the largest share. Brazil 15%, Mexico 10%, South Korea 6%, Japan and Germany 4%, China 1.5% steel export to US, India less than 1%. So this is the kind of numbers I'm getting. So let us not waste too much time talking about the Trump and his trade war, etc. India is really flying high. Our investment in infrastructure, construction, automobiles, it's all increasing year after year. I'm seeing the numbers from various ministries. I very closely watch them. So we are just insulated from this kind of a thing. And the trade negotiation which is going on between US and India, it will be a very favorable one because US wants India in Quad, that is a defense alliance, Quad, etc. And they want India, they know this is a democracy here, very strong, stable democracy, the largest population country. They know India matters a lot. It is not Mexico, it is not Greenland, etc. So these are my comments, Vinaji. Thank you for the time you gave me. Thank you.
Thank you, Puksa. Your having your expert comments is always a pleasure, and you have really touched many critical areas which you don't may realize that we are not. But when you put it up the way you put it up, it makes a lot of difference. Thank you so much.